Heroes of Italian Wine. We get to bring together some of the great brands of Italy. These are brands that I love to introduce you to. I'm so proud and so privileged, so honored to be able to get so many great producers to talk to us and teach us about their wines. And really, my goal is that we all can improve our wisdom about these important categoric leaders. They're not the biggest brands, but they are some of the more important brands. And I think you're going to love our next guest. Alfio Cavallotto is with us today, winemaker at Cavallotto Barolo. Good morning, good evening to you, Alfio.
Good morning. Thank you to give me this opportunity to explain a little bit what we do here in Piemonte, in Barolo area.
Yeah, I've been sitting right in the tasting room where you're sitting on a couple of occasions, and it's always a wonderful visit. I can't wait for you guys to see the amazing vineyards that the family operates. How long have you guys been in Barolo?
Well, we are an old family in Castello. So we are in the central Barolo area, in a small village. I'm the fifth generation of a wine producer in Castiglione Falletto. My grandfather, after a while, decided to produce his own wine from his own vineyard, moving in Bricoboschis. So we were before in another hill in Castiglione Falletto, but in 1928, my grandfather moved and he bought the entire hill called Bricoboschis, and of course the house and the cellar all together. Bricoboschis is a particular hill in Castiglione Falletto. The old owner was Giuseppe Boschis, that heredited all the land and the house from the Marquise Colbert, Juliette Colbert. Juliette Colbert in 1820 was a very, very important woman in Barolo village. Also very rich woman, one of the richer women in that period in the Europe. She, for the first time, wrote the rules to produce Barolo. And these rules, about 90% of these rules, we continue to respect to produce the wine. So for the first time, was very important at that moment, because finally, for the first time, it was possible for wine grower and for negociant and for everybody that vinified and aged wine have a standard. So to grow the appellation Barolo was necessary to maintain and follow the same rules. So she has been a very, very important person for everybody of us. She died without a son, and she decided to devolve, to give the most part of the vineyards in Castiglione Falletto to Giuseppe Boschis. After that, my grandfather bought this hill. So we start in that period much more as a wine grower than exactly a wine producer. But after a few years, thanks to my grandfather, we began to produce wine. Another important step of my family was when my father and my uncle were very young in 1948, where we decided to produce exclusively wine from our own vineyards with a label, and 100% of the grapes were vinified and put in the bottle. It was revolutionary because until 60s were very, very rare to find a vine grower that produce wine in the bottle and for selling. Until 60s, wine grower produced grapes to sell on the market to negociants. And the vinification and, of course, the commercialization of the wine was made by negociants. Thanks to my grandfather and my father, very young, we began very early to produce our own wines. Of course, you can see on the picture the cellar for aging, our Barolo. It's a very classic, you can see we use a big cask, botti, so large cask, very traditional and classic kind to age wines. Of course, it's necessary have a long age in this particular kind of botti, so large. You will taste the Barolo Bricoboschis 2017 that has been 3 years in this kind of botti. We have also Barolo Riserva that aged more time, 5 years. And our most important Riserva of Barolo is come from Bricoboschis, so exactly the same wine you will have, and is just a singular vineyard called Vigna San Giuseppe. It's the central part of the hill. Regular Bricoboschis is all the hill together, so the high part and the lowest part all together. Mm-hmm. The vineyards, in general, all Bricoboschis is fantastic. Is really in the center of Barolo area, and the soil is really rich in particular microelements that give a fantastic minerality, and is a good compromise between power and elegance. It means that there is a calcare clay that gives power to Nebbiolo, to Barolo, and there is a good percent also of sand that give the elegant part of the wine. Also the bouquet, we could have a very, very complex bouquet thanks to the sand that give much more flowers, but also thanks to the clay, many different kinds of clay, in particular white clay, but also yellow and orange clay that give more fruity sensation, more the wine could be also very dark in color sometimes, depending on the vintage. So in general, we can see that the characteristic in general of Castiglione Falletto, and in particular in the Bricoboschis hill, is the complexity. Often, it's easier to speak about Barolo of Serralunga because it's exceptional, great, rich of power. Monforte much more rich of power, also rich of tannicity. La Morra, completely in the other side, in the west side of the Barolo area, with a very sandy soil, so the wine is much more elegant. Verduno, very, very, very elegant and light. Often nobody knows Castigno e Falletto, because in the middle is not right now very well possible to identify it. But tasting the wine, if you can see that is too rich or too light, probably could be from Castiglione Falletto. And Bricoboschi is a really typical soil in Castiglione Falletto.
Well,
together, Castiglione Falletto is in Opera.
Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt, but the you know, when we select the producers for this program, you know, we aimed really high, and we thank you so much for joining us. You are the sole Barolo producer that we're presenting tonight, and not to take for granted but our clients may or may not know, you know, Nebbiolo is the particular grape variety for the Barolo region, and it is a very unique variety, and there's a lot of similarities to me with wines like Burgundy in the way that they're produced, the way that they're grown, and how these wines kind of age and really come together. The 2017 vintage itself, a warmer vintage, yes?
Yes, is a warm, but in particular, the characteristic is that is a very dry vintage, not just a warm, because the temperature in 2017 was okay, warm, but in the average after all. The particular characteristic of the season was dry weather all around the year.
And it makes wines that you can start to enjoy a little earlier perhaps than other vintages. And
yes, a little bit, yes, of course, is necessary in this kind of vintages. It's not considered, of course, a classic vintage, but a modern vintage. In the last 20 years, this kind of vintages are very common. Could be a problem for customers. All the style customers, because these vintages are not so, we say in Italian, austere. Austere, yes. So some very important for us collectors look for, of course, this kind of a strong vintage, also because they want to drink wines after 10, 15, 20, 25 years or more, or to keep forever. Another category of vintages that many customers appreciate a lot are vintages much more soft, very drinkable also right now. Of course, the wine become better and better and better for, I think, 20 years or more. So we don't speak about a Barolo that after a while go down in the bouquet or maintain a dry tannicity. So the wine, even if the vintage is a particular vintage, must be perfect. And the difference is that the evolution, of course, is a little bit faster, but sometimes it's so, but other vintages, very dry and warm, stay very young also forever. So the characteristic, I think that is that the bouquet right now is very open. Of course, in the first 2-3 years, it's possible to feel in the mouth some dry sensation, because the ripeness of the grapes was a dry maturation. But after a while, thanks to this dry tannins, it's possible to keep very well the wines for years and years and years, and this sensation disappears year after year, month after month, disappear absolutely. And often we have a fantastic good surprise in this kind of vintages. Other vintages that the press
decorate,
in particular to the press, give, I don't know, a lot of reputation. They say, okay, the vintage is 100 point, etc. Sometimes after 10, 15, 20 years, could be a delusion.
right?
So we don't know exactly.
What we do know,
often we don't know.
right? But what we do know is that you guys, where you're sitting in that tasting room and that barrel room, is about 15 to 20 feet away from that dramatic, beautiful hillside that you guys farm with the highest ethos. Are you biodynamic or are you organic? I can't recall.
We are certified organic. It's a particular kind of certification because just organic is quite easy. But we prefer the experimented since 2008 a new system of organic style without copper. So without metal, this organic style become difficult and also very, very, very expensive. But thanks to this elimination, without any heavy metal added on the soil, we arrived at a fantastic goal to be sustainable forever. And we are sure that in 1,000 years, nothing changed in the soil. Luckily for us, respect France, Bourgogne, Bordeaux, much more, our soil are quite poor of copper because this mode arrived a little bit later, respect to France, of course, but of course it passed the Alps and arrived a little bit later at the end of 19th century. Was possible also very soon to spray a kind of metal much more active, so with a reduction of the quantity. So no more poltiglia bordolese, so is a copper sulfate, but hydroxide or oxide of copper. And so we reduce a lot. Already in the 60s, we reduced 11 times the quantity of copper used by my grandfather in the 20s, in the 30s. Luckily, from 2008, zero at all. So it's a great goal. And now we continue to experiment other things. To substitute completely this metal, we are using essential oil, vegetable essential oil, very, very common, like oil of sage, oil of hebe, that is a plant that climbs on the walls. So normal things, but actually a little bit too expensive. We introduce also the oil of orange, sweet and bitter orange. So from the seeds and from the skin of orange,
These
we
are
reduce
to build up the immunity in the vineyard and to reduce the chances of molds and other pressures in the vineyard from weather, from
yeah,
it.
depends.
Yeah.
Yeah, depends a lot. In particular, in 2016, this was fantastic, easy because so dry weather, no problem at all of the mode. So I think that probably. So the vintage started with some problem of the frost. But after that problem, that we lose just a few, I think less than 10% was lost from the frost. But after that, at all, no problem.
Mm.
Absolutely. So it's a really great vintage in healthy grapes.
Well, that's the
We don't spend too much to produce. To produce. Also, for this reason, the cost of the 2070 is lower. Respect 16 is about 30–40% lower than 16.
right. Yeah, so the 17 is a rewarding vintage, both economically and also allows us I think it's a great access, a great gateway for people to discover your brand. When your wine's perfect and traditional, classic vintage, your wines even require more time, and people respect that about Barolo. These are not wines you want to necessarily rush to consume. But again, we're talking about a wine that's held at the winery for 5 years before it's released, and then has an unbelievable, horizon. So you can drink it at any point in time. With your recommendation, what would you recommend our guests think about eating with your wine? What is maybe something, first thing that popped into your head with the 17 vintage that we're drinking tonight? What is the dish that you think people should consider consuming?
Yeah, but it's easy to say because a little bit like Burgundy, like Pinot Noir from Oregon, maybe. Pinot Noir and Nebbiolo, in particular classic Barolo, is very, very, very easy. Probably just, okay, oyster, no good. There is also a couple of very white kind of fish, and you can see on the mouth a little bit of metallic sensation. But I find fantastic Barolo with okay, well, tuna is like a red meat, so it's very easy. But also sushi, sashimi,
Yeah,
crustaceans, langoustine, grilled crabs, langoustine. Of course, it's a little bit strange for the most part of the people drink so red wine with white things, but it's great. And you can eat and drink much more because when you drink the wine, you stop right now to feel the food and you feel a perfect and clean wine. But after that, when you start again to eat, you cancel completely the wine and you can taste the perfect, clean food. So it's not boring to drink and to eat. In Piedmont, of course, we drink much more easier wines like Dolcetto, Barbera, but just because it's because they are cheaper, of course.
Sure.
And also because often we start drinking with the Dolcetto or Barbera, but after that we change and we like to drink Nebbiolo or, of course, Barolo. And we have a lot of meat, carne cruda. We have also a lot of pasta, homemade, with meat, like a sauce or inside the pasta, like agnolotti al plain, etc. And Nebbiolo is great.
Piedmontese beef, carne cruda, sounds pretty good right now. And we look forward to seeing you in the future. If you're coming to Los Angeles, which I hope you have on your calendar for the future, we'd love to see you, potentially even do a dinner with you. So we'll talk to your importer and see if that could happen at some point in time. But it's always great to catch up with you and to see you. It's been a long time since I got to talk to you in person, but this is a fantastic alternative, and I'm really honored that you gave us the time. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, and yes, enjoy 2017. That is for me one of the luckily in Castiglione Folletto 17 is really great. In general, I tasted many Barolos, and I find that Castiglione Folletto and the historic part of La Bussia in Monforte is absolutely elegant and balanced wine. Yeah.
Performing well. And I know if you're with your iPad, if you show people the wall across the way, you've got all these fantastic other wines that you drink in the world. And you definitely know what you're talking about. You're not just drinking your own wine, but there's a great amount of wine in that room. And it's a wonderful place to visit. It feels like you're visiting home, and you can smell that smell from the cellar, and yeah, there's that corner. I've taken many a picture in front of all those bottles. Look at that. Great. Bravo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tremendous. Well, thank you, Alfie. We really thank you, and brother, for us as well, allowing giving us the time with you, and we'll look forward to seeing you in Los Angeles.
Oh, great. I hope to start again to travel a little bit more. After a pandemic period, I stay a little bit more, of course, here in the cellar with the family. But in next future, I will again. I restart to travel a little bit more.
Thank you, Alfio.
Thank you. Bye bye. Arrivederci.
Arrivederci. Thank you.